Is it mandatory for a high school athlete who wants to pursue wrestling to treat it like a full-time job, whether they're getting paid or not?
You can't expect to accomplish any goal if you're part-time.
This kid has that label of being the number one wrestler in the country. What the heck is going through a young wrestler's mind at that point?
These kids believe they're invincible.
How important is something like a Who's Number One event for a top high school wrestler?
60% of the NCAA finals matches were kids who wrestled in the Who's Number One event.
What should parents and coaches really be focused on in order to get their high school athlete to the collegiate level?
I've never seen one way that works. You just have to try to find a group of human beings that are genuinely invested in helping you and your kid move in the right direction. What up, guys? October 1st. It's this is going to be, I don't want to say a solo pod, but it's just me and Big Andrew over here. Big blue belt Andrew. Our boy Mason is in Europe right now doing some tour or doing some clinics and stuff. So we figured since we know you guys love our content so much, we'll still get you guys something this week, but it's just going to be me and Andrew. And I think it's going to be a good dynamic of a little difference with, Mason here, and not in a bad way, but we'll be able to probably attack some questions and attack some topics that maybe we couldn't while he was here. And I'm sure in the future that they will have maybe a podcast without me. So, and maybe, I would like to say that maybe we would do it without Andrew, but I'm not sure that we could.
I think you guys have figured it out, but yeah, no, dude, this is like one of the highlights of my weeks, like I enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
And dude, it's so funny because like some of the, I'm saying like culture that we're building, I'm seeing it outside of just us recording, right? Like I walked onto the mats a couple weeks ago and somebody just yells out, "I got wings on the way, cuz," and I just started laughing. I'm like, no way does that actually translate to like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like,
that's
I'm
so
here,
funny, dude.
You're in here in this room and it's like, it's just me and you talking. It's like, dude, I don't know if anybody's listening, but then I hear that and I'm just like, oh, dude, like that's so fun, so I look forward to these. So, I think it would just be harder to get rid of me at this point as opposed to trying to figure out a way to record without it. But
for sure.
Dude, I'm stoked.
I know, and it's cool. And you never know what's going to stick, right? Like, I guess being under the spotlight for the last, good almost 10 years of my life, like I'll have people, especially whenever I was at AKA and we were doing like the I Am the Bay videos. It's like, I'll have people come up to me and like say something and like, I saw this and that was so funny when you said that. And I was like, oh, I didn't even really remember saying that, but I'm glad you like that. And then there's a funny video of right after my first UFC fight, I was walking out of the gym and I had fan mail, my first fan mail, and then I had my some Ray-Bans on, and Habib was like giving me a hard time, and he grabs my glasses and he puts them on, and I'm like, bro, give me my glasses back. And he's trying to just say like, oh, you changed, you wear glasses now, And I was like, no, brother, these same sunglasses I had when I was broke, brother. And he takes it and he looks at DC and he goes, he have son? Because, he doesn't know. Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't seen it. I want to see it, though.
I was like, brother, these same sunglasses I had when I was broke, brother. And he looks at DC and he has my glasses in his hand. And he goes, he have son? Like he thought I was saying that I was wearing my son's glasses.
Damn, yeah.
It's so funny. Like viral video, like viral. Like it's like there's so many views on a couple different like viral Instagram videos of it. So it's just funny how things like that'll stick, You never know what will stick.
No, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, like the language barrier. Again, he's like said the most like innocent thing, and everybody's cracking up about it. Just be like a slight tweak in language, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
And what's funny is like you got to think about, like DC is very he's very intellectual. You know, obviously he works on TV. He can talk very properly or whatever. But you know, he's from Louisiana. You know, he's from New Orleans, and you know, he likes to have a good time, and he talks slang and stuff like that. When, you know, when it's just the boys, you know, and so you got to think it's a funny dynamic that like literally one of Habib's number one like English teachers are DC. So it's like Habib has learned like these, I guess, slang terms as he thinks is normal. You know what I mean? So it's funny, bro. He's naturally funny, dude.
Yeah, dude. Shout out to that guy that filmed all those videos. You said it was I Am the Bay?
Yeah, Brian. His name's Brian. You know,
That's
Brian.
dude, that's great content, and like what a cool like time and place to be in to film all that stuff. Because you showed that video of you and DC sparring,
Yeah.
and then hitting the assault bike, and just like this stuff, like him like messing up your assault bike, and like just being a dick. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, dude, what
Yeah,
an
bro.
annoying training partner.
Oh my gosh, bro. You're tired, like so tired, bro. But like you can't, like, my whole thing is like you can't cave to him, you know, you can't like bow down to him, so you have to like force yourself to play that game with him, you know, otherwise he's just still gonna bully you around. But yeah, Brian was a guy, he like did jujitsu at the gym, and then I don't know if he already had like a little, you know, picture, you know, it started out with just pictures, you know, I think. And then, you know, he'd send us all pictures. And then what's cool is, yeah, I mean, he would take pictures of us training all the time. And then he would send us like a Dropbox of them. And then you could decide if you know, what you wanted to post or whatever. And then he started doing the videos, and the videos started blowing up, bro. You know, with the dynamic of DC, it was like DC and his little crew. So it was like me, Kyle Crutchmer, Sean Bunch, and then it was like Habib and his little crew. You know, it was like Habib, Islam, you know, Manap, Umar, like. It's a good dynamic, you know, because we were all kind of like messing with each other. So, no, it was cool. It's really cool. Like sometimes I'll get on a YouTube kind of, you know, rabbit hole, and I'll go end up watching one of the old ones or something, and I'll just kind of laugh because it's like you just kind of forget what was going on, you know, because really at the time, shit, that was 5 years ago at least. Some of them were longer ago, which is crazy to think, but
Yeah,
time
at that
flies.
time. Yeah, have you ever been around that many full-time fighters? Because I'm just thinking, like, dude, there's a lot of really good fighters all in one gym, and then, like, you know, because in my head, you know, I think about like just like some grapplers, like yeah, they'll compete, but everybody's got a job. And then even at like Ultimate Fitness with like Uriah Faber's gym, like there's some dudes that are in there that are fighters, but like everybody's kind of doing something else. But at that time, it just seemed like everybody had one goal, right? Like, has there ever been another time like that for you?
You know, really the only other time, and you know, I'm lucky in the sense, is really when I was on the U.S. national team. And because, you know, I was blessed enough to wrestle at the level high enough to where I was getting paid. Like that was my job. And so then, you know, I'm around those same guys. You know, I'd only be around a couple of them where I was at Iowa State, but then I don't know, 5-6 times a year, there's a national team camp at, for the most part, the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And then it would be like everybody from the national team, and then everybody else who was like damn near close to being on the national team. So there'd be like 30 to 40 to 50 guys there who are all, like you said, doing the same thing. They're full-time wrestlers trying to chase the, you know, Olympic gold, world gold. And they were at their own respective universities, being at their RTCs. And yeah, we all would travel together and, you know, et cetera. But I was, you know, in that sense, I was blessed enough to be around full-time athletes, but even more because I was actually really around more full-time athletes in wrestling than I was in fighting. Because although we had a special gym to where a lot of us were higher level pro fighters, there were still a lot of guys who had to go to job and stuff like that too. So,
Yeah. It's really cool that you're bringing up, some wrestling and stuff, because I really do want to get into that Who's Number One event that happened this past weekend.
Nice.
Is it mandatory if somebody really does want to kind of pursue wrestling at more than just like a high school wrestling team level, to surround themselves around full-time wrestlers and actually make it become their job, whether they're getting paid or not? Like, is that something that is just like an absolute must?
Mandatory. You can't expect to really accomplish any goal in the future or any of the world's best goal if you're part-time in it. It's just impossible, bro. It's really impossible. I don't care how good you are. And you can see it, honestly, you can see it really on sometimes if a guy is a fighter when he comes back and wrestles, or if, maybe a dude's coaching and then he wants to kind of jump back in the US Open or something, they just have lost the step. And you see it often. It's like even like kind of looping in the Who's Number One event, there's this kid, Nico Sahakian, who is, he wrestles for St. John Bosco. He's the number one kid in the country. He's got to be one of the pound for pound best in the country too. He's a monster. He come and trains with us a little bit at the OCRTC. Monster, 285 pound, 6'2", 6'3", just monster human being. But he decided to play football this year. He's playing football right now, and he goes and wrestles this last weekend against this kid, Drew Correa, who is a full-time wrestler, and he loses. And it's like they get into a couple scrambles where it's like, dang, was Nico a little off? Well, and then he gets injured in the middle of the match, and it's like, was he injured because he, his body wasn't used to getting in those actions? And he had a chance to score and he didn't because he was just, like I said, one step off. And so yeah, 100%. If you want to be at the highest level of wrestling, you have to wrestle every day. Have to.
Yeah. Can you describe what that feels like, being kind of labeled as like the number one, wrestler in the country? I know wrestlers are built different. You can't be working that hard since you're like 4 years old and be in the same mental space as I was in high school, right? Like, I haven't done really anything hard at that point. Wrestlers are built different, but with that in mind, this kid has that label of being the number one wrestler in the country, and now he has to go kind of prove it. What the heck is going through a young wrestler's mind at that point?
They go defend their honor. Like, a lot of people deal with, I guess, mental like nervousness, or, they overthink the situation. But I think that a lot of guys are like this, at the highest, tier of it. And that's how I was. I remember I always wanted to go prove myself against the best guys. I wasn't worried about what they had for me. I just wanted to be like, okay, let's see if I'm as good as this dude. And I don't know what that is. And maybe that's something I was just born with. But I remember just being like, let's go see, or if like, they didn't have me ranked number one at the time and I was ranked number 2 or number 3 or something like that. I always wanted to wrestle the better dudes, bro. And I think that a lot of guys are the same way. And I think that these kids believe they're invincible. They don't. Sometimes when you get to that level and you're number one in the country, like as a kid, and you've only wrestled a couple kids who are as good as you, even remotely as good as you, because everyone else, after the top 10 or whatever, it just falls off, bro. And so it's like, I believe that they think they're invincible. It's like I got to talk to one of my wrestlers that me and DC coached. He wrestled this weekend in a big match in Who's Number One in the main event against this kid Bo Bassett. I talked to him Friday night, and he's one of my guys. I coached for like 7 years, and he's one of my, I would say, one of my products. And that's my boy, man. His name's Danny Zepeda, and it's like I was talking to him Friday night. They wrestled Sunday, and like he was just like, "Coach, I'm gonna beat this dude, man. I got him. How I do it. You know what I'm saying? Like these kids, like they don't they don't have bills. They don't have worries. They don't have, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, what is there to, what they almost are like, what is there to stress about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have the capacity to be able to like not worry about it and just focus on beating this dude.
Yeah, and it's like they don't know worry yet. They don't know real life worry yet. So it's like almost like, like I said, it's like they're like, what are we worrying about? Like I don't even know what. Like I sleep in bed. You know, it's like a lot of guys when you get older, especially, I mean, in fighting and in wrestling, it's like we're dependent on our jobs here. We're dependent on eating and feeding people, and you know, so it's like you never know what people are going through, but these kids are just like they're just living life, bro.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the event. I was getting the emails from Flo talking about like a big wrestling event. Again, just apologies, not familiar with it at
Yeah,
all.
for sure.
So it didn't catch my attention, but I did notice. I'm like, wow, I again, you get the thing from Flow Wrestling. You're just like, okay, cool. It's like a big event, but then you see like, oh wait, these are just kids. Like, wait a second, like this is a big event. Like, what's going on here? So how does like that even come to be? How do they find the wrestlers to compete each other and that sort of thing?
Well, they've done it for, I mean, dude, maybe 8, 9, 10 years now. It wasn't around when I was in high school, but they will just pick basically, you know, they go off of these dudes' big tournaments, you know, they go to a tournament called Super 32 and they go to a tournament called Fargo and, you know, they go to World Team Trials and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, they go to like Doc B and Beast of the East and Iron Man and stuff like that. And, you know, they've generally, when you go to these tournaments, you have competed against the best guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they basically have a ranking system that they rank guys. And then, you know, so like sometimes if it's super close and maybe the number 1 kid graduated and like the 2, 3, 4, and 5 kid are all like very close and they've never wrestled each other, they will have, like they had it on Sunday, I think at like 150 or something. They had 2 kids wrestle, and then the winner of that one wrestled the number 1 kid later in the duel. But yeah, and then they throw these kids together, and it's a big deal. I mean, these kids. So because they said, I heard a stat this year that 60% of the NCAA finals matches were kids who wrestled in the who's number 1 event.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a precedent of what your future is going to look like in the sport of wrestling.
This seems very obvious, but assuming there's probably a lot of college scouts in the audience, right? Yeah.
I mean, you're asking. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something, but
no,
I mean,
asking.
Of course, bro. I mean, there is, but a lot of times, if you're the number 1 kid in the country, you're probably at least a junior. You know, maybe some of the lower weight classes you're not yet. You're junior, senior, and a lot of these kids are either committed or about to commit. So maybe not as many as you would think, but yes, there's a lot of college coaches there for sure. And maybe I'm tripping. Maybe there is. Maybe they're all there. But a lot of those kids, I mean, I would bet more than 3/4 of those kids are committed. I would have to go look, but they're probably all committed already.
Yeah. Do they? I don't really know much about like NCAA and college sports in general, but do they have like transfer portals for wrestlers as well?
Oh yeah, of course.
Holy shit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and it's starting to become a thing, and it's starting to become a money thing too, and we're getting kids who are leaving programs and the thing is too is now you're seeing where these kids are finding out their loyalty to a program or their program's loyalty to them because they're like, well, why are you having this kid come in and I'm your recruit? And, say you recruit a 74-pounder and then he's a freshman and it was probably going to redshirt, but then you guys can go pay, $50, $60, $70,000 to get a kid who is a junior and he's, blood round last year or he's already All-American and he's looking for a place to go. And then you kind of like basically recruit over him almost. You hire over him essentially. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see a kid like that, like hop in the transfer portal and leave.
That's crazy. So, I mean, I don't know how many high school kids are going to be listening to this right now, but maybe a coach, maybe a parent that has an athlete that's, kind of thinking about going this route. Where do you think there should attention be on as far as making this a reality, right? Like high school to a legit D1 college, maybe. What should the focus be on for a youth athlete right now? Is it strictly like got to win every tournament because that puts a good amount of pressure on somebody? Is it getting in better shape? Like, what do you think is the thing that they should actually be focusing on right now?
Oh, fuck, Andrew. It is, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I also don't think there's a 100% right thing either. Experience and trusting the process are two of the most important things, because then you can allow that to be a wider range of areas. And I will say this, that I've never seen one way that works, from if you talk about a kid who's 6 or 7 years old all the way up until college, or all the way up until, the Olympics. I've seen it work both ways. I've seen the crazy dads and kids who, been winning since they were 6 or 7 years old, and now they're winning NCAA titles. I've seen that work. I've seen kids who win national titles when they're 8, and then by the time they're 14, they don't wrestle anymore. I've seen kids who don't even win a state title, and then they win a national title, NCAA national title. There's not just one way, and not everybody's the same. You just have to try to find a group of human beings that are genuinely invested in helping you and your kid move in the right direction. And then whatever happens after that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to stress that parents, do your best to support your kids, and do your best to find coaches that are invested in them. And it's not ever going to be perfect. It's never going to be, nobody's perfect. No coach is perfect. Nobody's ever going to be exactly who you want them to be. And also, don't find people, and I think this is in life too, don't find people who tell you what you want to hear, bro. You got to find people that tell you what you need to hear. And I get a bad rap about that sometimes, because I'm not afraid to tell people what they need to hear. And people don't like that. People don't want to hear. They don't understand. And a lot of times it's because people don't understand it. They don't understand that that's what they need. It's almost just a naive ignorance. And it hurts. The truth hurts. I would have never got to where I've gotten to, and my career hasn't been perfect, if I didn't have people around me telling me what I fucking needed to hear and not what I wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling, out of all sports, is the worst sport to do that with, because it's 1v1. It's only you out there, bro. It's not like football where you can blame other people and other positions. It's you, man. So, yeah, I guess I kind of went on a tangent, but
no, that was actually perfect, because, again, like with all sports, right, you have those that are going to say like, oh, you need to specialize. And then you have other coaches that have seen that and say, no, you don't need to specialize. Have them play everything because that's going to be more valuable.
Yeah.
Than being stuck in this one lane. And what you're saying, though, is, look, like there's no one direct path. Like this isn't the one thing that every, great has taken.
Yes.
There's been many different ways to get there.
I mean,
right?
we all did. Like growing up, I think it's more and more a specialization sport now. But growing up, we all played 3 sports. I played baseball and football growing up too, and loved them. I love football. I love to watch football. I mean, I find myself on my timeline watching football highlights all the time, bro. I love football. And I really like baseball too. Like, I don't love to sit there and watch a 9-inning game. I mean, my grandpa used to do that. My grandpa would watch fucking double headers, and but he also would watch the NASCAR 500, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, from start to finish, Andrew. Like, God rest his soul, but I'm like, Poppy, what are we doing in here, bro?
Yeah.
Like, but you know, when I see these kids now, I mean, some of our best kids right now play other sports, but they're in the room every day. Playing other sports and being in the room every day, two different things. Being dedicated to wrestling, but still being able to go to football practice after wrestling practice, or miss a wrestling practice to go to football practice. I mean, that's the same thing. It's like, that's kind of how I was too. Except when I was a kid, I wouldn't go to the wrestling room for a couple months at a time, for sure, because I was playing baseball or I was playing football. But I definitely wrestled in the summer still, because I still was always wrestling freestyle and Greco. And it's about what your kid wants. There's kids who, all right, it's a medium about what your kid wants and what you push him or her to do. Because there's kids who love it, who love going in there like, yeah, let's go, let's get ready for football, you know? And some kids, you could just tell they kind of don't want to be there. But then only you know your kid as well as anybody. And that's when, as the parent, you step in and say, hey, I know you don't want to do this right now, but in life, we're going to have to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. So I'm going to make you go tonight. And I just want you to put effort in. I see a lot of parents who tell me like, yeah, he just didn't want to come. He didn't want to come last night. And I was like, what? He just didn't want to come last night? Like, that was his decision? I didn't even remember ever it being my decision, you know?
That's great.
Like, crazy, bro.
Yes. You had mentioned in a previous episode that some of these kids are taking a lot of these classes because they have the thought of potentially becoming an MMA fighter. Is that still happening? And like, how often is that happening? Because me as a parent, like, if my son wants to do jiu-jitsu, wants to wrestle, I'm all for it. If he says he wants to get into striking, I'm like, okay, but at what level? You know, you're going to take some classes. Like, all right, that's cool. Get some sparring in. Oh, you want to be a fighter?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a little different. So what's that like?
It's rare, but it's never like a 8-year-old kid, you know? It's like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, you know? And it's generally, you would think that those kids are thinking for themselves, but you would be tripping if you thought that the parent in that situation wasn't help pushing it.
No,
you know
way.
What I mean? Dang. Well, it's like, I don't know, like, how do you grow up? Like, I don't know, you grow up, I guess maybe I'm tripping, but it's like, you know, I mean, it's like when you're younger, you say you want to be these people, these things because of, you know, it's like, for me, it's like, I like shit that my older brother liked.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah,
it's like, if you have a dad
that watches UFC, and I get all super excited about it, and I put that. Okay,
yes, not even intentionally, just being like, dude, you know, your son's sitting down with you watching UFC, and he's like, you're like, and he sees just the sheer off of his love for you. He sees how excited you are about it, and then he's like, hell yeah, I'm excited too. Like, dad likes this shit, you know.
Yeah.
So who knows? And some kids are, you know, like, fuck, I want to be that now. Imagine how my dad would be happy and I would, you know, whatever.
Yeah, we got to be careful of our inputs, not just for ourselves, right? Like, you scroll on X, on Twitter, and all of a sudden you think like there's a lot of doom and gloom, or everybody's on left or right, or whatever it is. And now all of a sudden that's what you think your world is, but also whatever you're watching, your kids are watching, and they're going to absorb that as well. So like, yeah, we got to be better at guarding our inputs. You know, it's kind of a thing that like, it's like monkey see, monkey do, right? If I get super fired up to watch some dude get knocked out, my son's going to get fired up to watch some dude get knocked out. And then where's that going to lead to? We don't think about these things. We're so tied into the here and now. We never think about that stuff in the future.
Absolutely, bro. And like, obviously not being, I'm not a parent. but I've obviously seen a lot of people try to parent, and I have parents ask me advice because I've seen it,
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, and I think that I'm probably gonna start a family here soon, and I feel like my thought on it is you have to protect your child from the darkest parts of the reality of the world, but I feel like you also, you want to try to maintain their purity and their innocence, but you also need to not neglect them and set them up for failure when it comes to the real world of how rough and tough and how people don't give a fuck about you, and how, you know what I'm saying, how
Mm-hmm.
people are
Yeah,
gonna
absolutely.
how people are gonna cuss, and kids on the playground are who aren't getting parented the right way are gonna present to your kid,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not the first time they see it and they don't act a way that, and I don't think we could ever cover all those areas, but you could just try to just be like, hey man, yeah, that's pretty fucked up, because really the world is, and it's just more and more these days, and they have more and more access to everything, and with their phones and the internet, and it's just, man, it's, you hear about these kids who are, not to be weird, it just being sexually active at a younger age, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and you just got to
Mm-hmm.
believe that that's their access to the internet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing worse than a parent in denial. Um,
Yes.
Try to be as vague as possible so it's not too exact. But I know of a parent with a young kid, and in their mind, they're like this innocent, like, no, it's no big deal. And I'm like, hey, at my age, I was already drinking, sneaking out of the house, and doing who knows what. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure you were too, because you were there. And they're like,
Yes.
no, it's different. I'm like, hey, no, okay, it is different, but it's different because they're doing that much younger now,
Yes.
because now they know how to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
it's so true.
my thing is like the exposures. So like my son will never watch me eat, like a whole cheesecake by myself.
Yeah.
Like he'll never watch me opt for a less nutritious meal for, like he'll never see that. He'll always watch me eating like good stuff. He'll always watch me exercising. He'll always watch me doing jujitsu and that sort of thing. So that way I don't have to be like, hey, you need to go do this if you want to, be healthy and be in shape, and not be the example, right? That's one thing. The other thing, and this is like, might be a little morbid, I guess I'll say, but we just got some puppies. I drove down almost to your neck of the woods, didn't
I
make it
saw the
all the way.
puppies. Oh man, so cute. I love
They're,
puppies, bro.
they're incredible, dude. They're so smart already. They're just very chill dogs. Doberman and Great Dane mixes. So Dober Danes.
Sick.
They're going to
They're
be
gonna be
big
sick.
dogs.
They're gonna be sick.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably going to get their ears clipped so they stick up. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well, here comes the mutilate. You're mutilating your dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
But
shut up.
the flip side of that is if they, like, they're going to have gigantic ears. They're going to get caught on something. They're going to start
Yeah.
bleeding.
Well,
And those you can't just put a Band-Aid on
one
it.
of the
Like,
big. I'm gonna help you out.
yeah.
Okay, because I'm decently knowledgeable about dogs. I have a couple. They're
Uh-huh.
in Denver right now, but I have a Pressa, and with those dogs with big floppy ears, what that does is one of the biggest reasons that people clip ears is, obviously they think it's for the looks, but also what it does, it helps with infection in their ears, because
Yep.
when their ears are so big and floppy, they cover their eardrum and ear hole, and which then obviously creates moisture and infections and stuff like that. It helps them from gaining infection and stuff in their ears for the most part.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, the same thing. And their big floppy ears, they get stuck on things or whatever. But I would say that the biggest reason is to prevent infection in their ear.
Got
And
it.
and I've talked to a lot of dog breeders, and I'm like I told you, it's like my timeline, bro, is combat sports, food, and dogs, and right now a little bit of football. So I don't believe that dogs ever remember or feel that. Like they don't remember. It's not a trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the brain capacity humans do. They don't remember. They don't even have the concept of time, bro. Dogs don't
Mm-hmm.
even have the concept of time. You could be gone for 30 minutes. No, you could be gone for 1 day or 3 days, and they don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
The time aspect of it, they might understand in other ways, but I know for sure my uncle, he bred beagles for a long time, and he bred greyhounds for a while. He had racing greyhounds, which is really cool. And that's one thing he told me is they don't understand the concept of time. So stop being so sensitive, people.
Yeah, you could be gone for 5 minutes and they think it's either 5 seconds or 5 years. Like they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting back to that, like I read a bunch of stuff about it. You read right away, like, oh, I wish people wouldn't mutilate their dogs for aesthetics and this and that. But then I would read other people like, oh my gosh, my house looks like a straight slaughterhouse because there's blood everywhere from the dog getting his ear cut and then shaking his head like crazy. So the tail, unfortunately, I didn't know you have to get those cut off like really fast, or else it just turns into like you're amputating a limb. And so I'm like, oh shoot, well that's different. And that was another thing. Like these dogs wag their tails really fast. They hit a corner, it's gonna break or it's gonna like open up, and more blood everywhere. And it's like, okay, now we're making them suffer for other reasons. But all this to say, they're gonna be really big dogs, like over 100 pounds. Big dogs don't last that long. And so I'm talking to my wife and I'm like, hey, when our son's like maybe like 9-10 years old, he's going to have to say goodbye to his best friend. Like, do you really want to go through that? And she's like, yeah, like that'll be hard. And I'm like, well, like what an amazing like opportunity for like teaching and like experiencing something, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it'll be heartbreaking. And it sucks as a parent to be like, yeah, my son's going to go through the worst thing ever. Right. But after that, like he'll be stronger for it. So I don't know how we got on this tangent, but what I'm saying is like, even though like I'm going to try to make the perfect world for him, I'm setting this up with the thought in the future of like, okay, he's going to have fun with this dog or dogs, got 2 of them. And then eventually he's going to have to say goodbye. He's going to be stronger for it.
Yeah.
Such a weird thing to think about now, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's just life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of life, dude. And the thing is like, you'll have to, you teach them to cherish the time that they have with the pet and just accept that that's a part of life. And it's kind of like circles back to exactly what we were talking about is like trying to set them up to understand that life is life, and there's going to be things that happen in life that you can't control. And there's just, it sounds so almost, I sound stupid saying this, but life is life. Like life is going to life, bro. Yeah. And there's things that happen in life that everybody has to deal with. And the sooner you deal with them, the better.
Yeah. So speaking of life is life, when did you realize that like MMA was going to be an option for you?
Oh man, I didn't want to fight. I came down to San Jose in 2015 to train with DC for his first title fight against Anthony Rumble Johnson. I came to wrestle, and when I was wrestling, or we wrestle like once or twice, and then we do some drills maybe. And on the other days that we weren't wrestling, like we'd like spar or something, right? And so on the days that we'd spar, they would just give me some gloves and some headgear and some shin pads, and I would just go in there and fight these dudes. And I didn't even know what I was doing, And I've always kind of been a scrapper. And then I remember like, my guy Bob Cook, he pulled DC to the side on one of these days, and he was like, yo, who is this kid, bro? We need to get this kid. And so like when I was leaving, DC told me that they want to sign me and they're interested in having me move out here and come fight. And at the time I had one more year, 2016, for the Olympics, And then I didn't know what was next yet. I knew that retirement was, I was barking up retirement's alley, but I also, could have went and coached. Like my ultimate first goal was to like wrestle for another year in 2016 and then probably go try to find like a college coaching job. And so whenever DC told me that, I remember talking to him on the phone like later, like that next week or something. And I was like, hey, bro, like, where I'm at. You know where I'm at in the sport of wrestling, at it better than all these dudes. So don't like just screw me and tell me that you think I'd be good at this just to kind of like as a business move, because I'm like basically done. Like I'm almost done now. And he was like, nah, bro. He was like, I think you're gonna be really successful. Like I believe it, and I think you're gonna make a lot of money. And I respect if you don't want to come, but I definitely would encourage you to try to come and you have a chance to change your life, And shit, maybe a week or two later, I like signed with Zinkin, their management team, and I went to, I did that probably late 2015, and then 2016 Olympic trials were in April, and I wrestled Olympic trials, and obviously didn't make the Olympic team, and then I took about a month off of everything. I went home to Missouri because I was in Iowa at the time, and then I basically drove all my shit from Missouri to California and started the dream, bro.
Yeah. So then where did you fight initially?
I initially trained out of Fresno, California. So what happened was instead of us moving to AKA, we ended up like, it was like me, a guy by the name of Ed Ruth, who was, a 3-time NCAA champ from Penn State. Chris Honeycutt, he's NCAA finalist, and then one of my buddies, Ernest James, he was my roommate at the time. He was an All-American, heavyweight All-American. They moved all of us to Fresno, where Josh Koscheck was at the time, to dethrone, and because they're gonna try, because it was cheaper to live there. It was more, it just. And I think there was more to it, but we moved to Fresno first. But then, every month or month and a half or so, we would go to Bob's house, and he lives in Hollister, which is right outside of San Jose. And we'd stay at Bob's house for like 2 or 3 days, and then we'd go train at AKA while we were there. And then I think I fought like twice when I was in Fresno. So I took like a year to learn skills. And then I finally got a fight, but it took a while because nobody wanted to fight me, because you just type my name in on, Google or something, and it's all over. So what happened was, it's a crazy story. I was supposed to be in my best friend growing up's wedding. Like, he was my best friend. His family is like my second family. I go to his family's house on Christmas for 10 years. And he was getting married, but and I don't know if I was negatively influenced or if it was the right decision, but they had a fight for me on the same exact day. So I made one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, and I decided to stay and fight. And my boy wasn't happy. We talked about it, and, I think as much as he forgives me, there's probably still a little salt there, but, and then I fought, and it went well, and I won, and I finished my guy fast. And, then it's like, then I fought again in another month. And then it's like, I went from not being able to get no fights to fighting twice. And then I fought again. Like, bro, that was 2017. So I fought March 18th, 2017. I had been in Fresno for about a year. I fought again end of April. And then I either fought again at the end of the year or beginning of 2018. Then I fought May of 2018 in Bellator. And then I fought November of 2018, Golden Boy. So that was my 5th fight. And then by like January, I was signed with the UFC. So I was signed with the UFC within 2 years of making my pro debut. And
that's got to be extremely rare, right?
What'd you say?
I said that's got to be extremely rare, right? After 2 years.
Extremely rare. Extremely rare. Nobody does
What do you think it was that allowed you to be in that position to sign with the UFC after 2 years?
Combination of things. I was fucking everybody up, and and I had this guy by the name of Daniel Cormier behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened fast, but at the time you couldn't have told me anything that I wasn't ready. Like, you couldn't have convinced me, bro. But looking back, of course, yeah, now I wish maybe I would have taken a little longer.
That's what I was going to ask, yeah.
Because here's the thing is, and it's not like an excuse, but maybe people don't understand this, is my first 4 fights, I didn't make it past the 2.5 minute mark.
Damn.
And then I only had 1 fight in Golden Boy go the distance. And then I was in the UFC. And I didn't go amateur. I had 2 to 8. I had less than 30 minutes ring time, experience time before I got into the UFC. And so I'm like learning on the job,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then you win. I won. I got fight of the night. Fucking sick fight. I broke the UFC middleweight a significant strike record. I landed like 166 significant strikes in one fight. And then like really, I'm still probably top. It might still be the 3-round record, but I remember like I saw like Marvin Vettori beat it in a 5-round fight. But then it's like, then I go and lose. And then it's like you lose and you're like, all right, got to get the win back. Mm-hmm. And I went and lost again. And it's like just the experience of everything. It's just how it went. It's like by the time I had 3 fights in the UFC, I hadn't even been a pro for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also I was older, since I stopped, or since I did the wrestling thing, I was in there a little bit longer than majority of people. Well, I started a little bit later than majority of people start.
Got it.
I signed with the UFC when I was like 29, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a crazy, crazy career, crazy situation. And it's just a journey. I've never been the guy to go the safe route. So I don't necessarily regret how I did it or what I did. There's some things I could have done better, but for sure. But I also always put myself in situations to be able to succeed at a higher level or fail.
Mm-hmm.
And the shitty thing about that is, and people could talk shit, it's like, I just do it in front of other people. People do that self to themselves every day, but they just don't have anybody watching. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's almost like you wouldn't have been the fighter you were if it wasn't for kind of burning the boats, right? Like if you had a plan B, I mean, shit, where would you? Right? Where would you be?
Who knows?
Maybe you wouldn't be here. I don't know.
No, I always think about that too. And it's like, it's not like my life is perfect right now, but it's not like it sucks either. And it's like, I think about it all the time that if I wouldn't have made these decisions of what I did, accepting that fight and then, whatever, accepting those fights, or if I didn't win that fight, if I won that fight, it's like, you never know where like the trajectory of your life would take you. But like I don't like if just I'm a believer in this is if one thing in that journey changed, like if I didn't take a certain fight, or if I would have won a certain fight, it's like I lost my first fight, I lost a split decision. It was one of those fights where you go, people were messaging me, you need to appeal, you won, you won, you won. It was they do those like the site that posts all of the media, the MMA media scorecards. Like out of 15 media scorecards, 14 of them said I won. And then it's like, okay, then what happens after that? You know what I mean? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what happens. I take the blame in my career and how it went, and I could have done things better. But also it's like I lost some fire. I've lost fire. I was talking to one of our coach's wives the other day at the gym, and Laura, and I was just telling her, I was like, the thing that sucks is I love this, and I love to train hard, and I love to, get my body moving and working, but it's like, I mean, I'm just almost out of it. Like, it's like I'm almost, sadly, my level of my capacity to being able to go hard, my health bar is very low,
Yeah. How is your body holding up though after everything?
My body hurts, bro, all the time, every day, um
Yeah,
but
no, that's funny. Like, we asked Mason that not too long ago, and it's like, yeah, like how, like any aches and pains. He's just like, everything hurts every day, and
everything
it's like,
hurts.
oh my gosh, dude. I'm like, yeah, I kind of banged up my ankle yesterday, and I don't know what I'm gonna do about it. But it's like you guys, like, yeah,
You just
everything
got to
hurts
get
every
up and
day.
go do it again. You just got to get up and go. That's the thing is, they tell me you got to get up and go, but I tell people, I'm like, you know how many times I've just got up and went,
It's
you
like,
know
yeah,
like how many more times, bro?
what the fuck, dude? What? I mean, I guess there's no plan B, right? You got to do it.
Got to do it. Have no other choice. And it's like you think about, it has to come to an end eventually,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm nearing mine. Like I said, I'd like to get back in, well, at least once, and just say I did it again. Because I think in 5 years, when it really is over, I'll be sad that I didn't. I'll always regret it, but and we'll see. And no, I don't know. We had been talking to try to get me in this promotion and fight, and it just hasn't happened yet. But I think it will. I'll be able to end on my terms. So
Hmm. Yeah, what I was gonna say was like, you were saying like maybe I could have done things differently or whatever, but I, I think those are they're not regrets, but let's just call them regrets. But I think you have the best regrets, right? Because it's not regret of, oh shit, I should have said yes and proved to everybody that I was down to take any fight. Instead, like, right, you don't want to have to be able to say that. Instead, you were like, oh shit, maybe I bit off a little bit more than I can chew.
mm-hmm.
Not many people can say that. Everyone's always like, oh, I went a little too conservative. You
Mm-hmm.
were the complete opposite. You're like, no, fuck it. I wanted to see what I was built out of. I wanted to see what I
Yeah,
was made of.
yeah. And
And
go ahead.
go ahead. Okay, I was just gonna say, like, and everybody else, again, they will go the conservative route, and then they will always wonder, shit, what would have happened if I lived up to my fullest potential?
Yeah,
You'll never have to question that.
yeah. And at the end of the day, people could say whatever they want about my weight, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm 5'6", and I have an abnormal body. I have a wrestler's body. I don't have a fighter's body. I mean, that's just what it is. So you tell me I should go a certain weight or whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like I don't have a fighter's body. I'm 5'6", 225, 230 pounds. Like you don't. I'm not built to fight. So um, I made the most out of what I had, and like you said, nobody can take that from me.
Mhm. Yeah. What about because we talked about it before, like ADCC or some jiu-jitsu stuff. You thinking about jumping in any of those competitions? And if you did, do you think that that would scratch the itch about, competing?
It could, for sure. But, and this is going to, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but it's like, I really don't want to compete for free.
No,
I
that's
did that
fair.
for a
Well,
long
no,
time.
you've worked way too hard to pay somebody to go
Yes,
compete.
exactly.
Oh, that's
And it's
fair.
like, I don't want to compete for free, and I'm not here for the glory anymore. And it's like, and maybe it is a little bit of glory, but also it's like, if I'm going to put this time in to train hard every day while I'm still have to work now I have to work.
Mhm.
Um, I want to make sure that it's going to be worth the time and money that I put into it, you know. Um,
Absolutely.
so we'll see. Depending on, you never know. I tell people all the time, you never know where you're going to be at in a year. I mean, I used to say you never know where you're going to be at in 5 years. You never know where you're going to be at in a year, bro.
Yep.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I forgot the saying, but like you overestimate what you can do in a year and you underestimate what you can do in 10 years. But in this case, yeah, dude, I mean, shit, a year ago, I didn't think I'd be here with you right now.
For
So
sure.
life moves fast and it's, again, saying no to everything is going to get you nowhere. Saying yes to a couple things here and there is going to get you a lot of places.
Yeah, man. So right now I'm really focused on, I want this to work, man. I want this thing to work, this thing we got going. So, and I
Mhm.
think it will. I think we just got to keep pushing it, and hopefully we can keep getting people to support us and doing the right things. Like, we talked about, we got some exciting guests on the way. Um, I'm actually going to try to lock one of those guys down today that I think a lot of people
Yeah,
will like. And,
absolutely.
we just keep pushing, bro. I think we got a good product. I just think we need to get into the ears of the right people. And I tell people all the time that people tell me, like, they'll sit down and talk with me, or they'll know me for a while or whatever, and they'll be like, dude, I wish that I even had like 10% of the knowledge that you have. And I will say that's something that I can, I have in my back pocket, is my experience and knowledge of just the deepest depths of combat sports and, life around it. So
Mhm.
I'm just hoping to be able to get it into and share it with more people, bro.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is, literally record it, put it on record. And, I'm knocking on 40's door, but the life experience that you and Mason have had is leaps and bounds, bigger than what I've had. Although I have different experiences, but the thing that I'm most proud of is that this stuff is all being published.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to look back, and some of the stuff that you say today in 10 years, some wrestler's going to circle back and be like, oh, shoot, like Deron Winn said that 10 years ago or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And the legacy is being built in a different way right now with this podcast. And as far as getting into the right ears, that's going to happen, especially if you watching or listening right now can just share this with at least one friend today, right? Like if you dug today's episode, share it with somebody that you know is going to, that they're going to dig it as well. Somebody in the gym, training partner, coach, whatever it is. That would be huge. That leaving reviews and all that stuff, like that stuff is super helpful for us. So if you do like this and you want to support, take a couple seconds, drop a rating and review on whether it's Apple, Spotify, or drop a comment on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. That stuff, it takes literally $0, but it helps us out a ton, especially as a brand new podcast. It's really hard to get traction in the beginning, but we're doing all the right things. So it's just a matter of time. And we would love to be able to look at you and be like, yeah, you've been down since the start. It's a really cool thing to have and a really cool friendship to build on. But, again, we do need a little bit of help right now. So anything that you can do would be like super duper helpful and great. And we'd be grateful
Yeah.
for it.
And it's cool to think that maybe in 10 years, like you say, in 10 years, like 10 years, like, are we going to be doing this in 10 years? I mean, that would be sick, bro. I mean, you got to think podcasting is timeless, right?
Yeah, it
So,
ain't going nowhere either.
huh?
It ain't going anywhere.
And we're
Like
not
our
going
podcast,
nowhere. Like,
but I'm just saying podcasting in general. Like I just, because I'm in this stuff every day and I see what the numbers are. And it's not like one of those things where like you look at YouTube and it's like every I think I forgot the number, but it's something crazy like every minute, like 500 hours of video is being uploaded. With podcasting, it's not that. It's actually like extremely low, but podcasting itself is not going anywhere. Every major network has a podcast. Every major show on TV has a podcast on the side, right? Like all the NFL teams, all the NFL shows, they all do exactly what we're doing right now. They do remote shows. It's way too powerful to not have one, and they're not going anywhere. Um, and like I said, it's cool to have you right now, the listener, the viewer, be like, "Yo, I was there 10 years ago. Holy shit! Look at where we've gone." That's
Yeah.
special. Yeah.
So sick, bro.
Yeah, and then we got some merch coming on the way. It's being worked on as we speak.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
really excited for that. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it. I've gone down the route of like making statement T-shirts and like having staple shirts that are like, oh, this is the one we're gonna sell forever, and they kind of fall flat. And then we have these other ones where we have sayings or like, kind of like have fun with it, and those are the things that like stick. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Really hope you enjoy what we have coming out. And again, it's just all exciting because this is like the ground floor. So it's only going to get better from here.
For sure. And I believe that, we're getting to the point now. It's kind of like with the merch stuff. And, I think that, we talked about this before that we would like to start, maybe trying to work out some, maybe some type of like brand deals or like anybody who wants to support the podcast, that we can support on the pod and add. So if there's anybody listening right now that, even if it's a small business or anything that, you'd like to maybe have a shout out or support, or if you'd like to just support us because if you enjoy the product and everything that we're putting out, feel free to reach out to us, man. And we're just going to keep it moving,
Thank you for checking out the DMs podcast. In this episode, Deron and I talked about going from the high school level to the collegiate level. Well, what's after that? Well, I asked Mason a bunch of questions about going pro in the Jiu Jitsu space. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and click this video because you're going to love it. We'll see you there. Peace.